All right, Till, let's go.
Hello, hello. Lovely listeners. Welcome to another episode of the European Herpetoculture podcast. My name is Till. Today we have a little special episode where we want to talk about building backwalls. And beside my wonderful co-host Flo, we also have some fantastic guests. Jacop from Sweden, that you already know from a different episode, and also a new face, Ferdy from the Netherlands. Yeah, before we dive into the wonderful topic of building great back walls, Ferdy, would you give us a little introduction about you and yourself?
Like on my personal story or hobby stuff?
Whatever you'd like to share.
Whatever you.
Personal.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm Ferdy. I'm from the Netherlands. I am a herpetologist by profession. I work for a Dutch NGO, and it's called RAVON, and we are concerned with the conservation of reptiles, amphibians, and fish in the Netherlands. And we do all kinds of research projects, work on public awareness, and do advisory projects for governments, landowners, and all kinds of other parties. So that's the personal stuff. Hobby-wise, I started in 2001, so been almost 24 years in the hobby. Um, Started with chameleons and worked with a couple dozen of species over the past, well, let's say 20 years from the time that I started, but about 7 years ago, I made a switch because I wanted something less demanding. Chameleons can be really, intense in terms of the time they demand on husbandry, and they can be super sensitive to all kinds of climatological variables, diseases, and all sorts of stuff. So I switched to snakes, and like I kept the same setups, and I chose small species that also allow to have nice backgrounds, and that's kind of where I started to make nicer enclosures. And yeah, that kind of brought me here to this podcast.
Nice. Yeah, thank you guys
Nice.
both for being here today. So, yeah, this will be like a little part of the community terrarium project that we're doing with Flo's new enclosure. He already built a back wall, and yeah, that's why we thought we need a little special,
Yeah.
yeah, episode. So, Flo, you are the more the expert out of us two, beside our guests. Do you want to start with your questions?
Maybe just did you start with when you kept the chameleons? Did you already build some back walls there, or did it start with the snakes, or how did it start for you?
It really started with the snakes. So chameleons are like I had a really like basic setup, like a typical chameleon enclosure for most of the species that I kept. So for chameleons, it's very important to have a structure that they can climb onto. So you want something that
Mm.
fills up the volume of the terrarium, and ficus trees are perfect for that.
Mm.
And another reasons why they are perfect is that they have a lot of smaller leaves. So throughout the enclosures, you have a leaf surface that will hold water droplets if you spray them, and the chameleons can just walk around and lick up water from them. And also, a ficus
Mm.
tree, of course, provides like hiding places. So most of my chameleon enclosures just had a ficus, and I started putting epipremnum in them as well. That just um, grew throughout the enclosure. But other than that, I didn't use many plants because chameleons, like they're very good at destroying things as well. They can like they grab and hold on to things. They can squeeze really well, and they're a bit clumsy. So yeah, delicate plants or a delicate setup in an enclosure doesn't really um, suit a chameleon in my opinion. I mean, like with all the skills that I have now, I could probably provide something, more natural than I did back then. But
Mm.
it was nice enough, and it was handy. Yeah.
Sorry, that was my cat.
Another guest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I can remember like the first pet reptile that I had was actually a panther chameleon. And my dad and I, we built like this super crazy back wall. We like my dad put so much effort in it. He debarked a lot of like wooden pieces. So we had like this whole back wall full of like bark from trees that he cut down because we used to make firewood ourselves. And it took like I think a month for him to debark this wood, and it looked actually pretty cool. But man, it was like he put a lot of effort in there. So shout out to my father for doing that. Yeah. But how was it for you, Jacob? When did you start like with building backgrounds?
Oh my God. I found some old pictures like from I was, I don't know, 15 maybe.
Uh,
And I tried it out with a tried and proven styrofoam concrete mix. But yeah, like we talked about before, you have to try, yeah, and see if you like it or not.
Yeah.
You use the
yeah.
reference pictures. I did one for my first bearded dragon.
Hmm.
It looked like
How
shit
was it? Yeah.
when yeah,
Same.
and yeah.
I
And then
think,
Yeah,
you try
yeah.
different methods, you talk to people, and you do reference pictures, like try to mimic nature as much as possible.
Think you have to
yeah,
do at
that's
least
true.
some, right? Because even if you know the best techniques, you have to get some
Yeah,
experience, some
Of
hands-on,
course.
and otherwise you just have the right materials. It's also, I always feel like when I see your backgrounds, guys, it's something more artistic and not only like a craftsmanship, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
the way you set the details, yeah. Where do you get your inspiration from? Do you look at habitat pictures or
And
how do you
nature, man.
work? Nature. Yeah.
Yeah. The most difficult thing that I've noticed is that you have nature and the big biomes that the animals use, and then you have to make it like a miniature version of the whole area that they use.
Mm,
That's the hardest part for me. So
mm,
you have to try to provide the tiny little edges that actually Ferdy taught me that you need to make some focus points. One for the hotspot, one for some caves for the cold spots, and then you kind of mix everything together to make it well like one whole kind of habitat, the
yes.
enclosure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the focus point, in photography, like you have the what is it called in English? Um, like there's the golden cut or whatever.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
Ah,
that
yeah, yeah.
that loop
I,
that has a like photos can be divided in thirds, like both horizontally and vertically. And so and the intersections of those four lines, those are the points that you need to have something in focus that you want your viewer to look at. So if you look
mm,
at terrarium from the front, like you can try to apply the same technique as in photography to make the
mm,
back wall aesthetically pleasing. So divide it in thirds and like don't have a symmetrical setup. Like I saw a guy that made two nice fake trees in a terrarium a while ago, and both looked
mm,
really nice. But the way he set up the whole back wall piece, it was so symmetrical that I didn't like it, even though the separate
mm.
pieces were good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It
It's
looks
true.
too unnatural than when it's like too perfect,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Yeah. Do you use
It
any
looks mad.
planning tools when you start building a back wall? So like some 3D program, or do you do a sketch, or do you just sit in front of the cage and
No, I just I look at pictures from the natural environment of the animal that I want to house somewhere. Um, and I try to find like details, for example, in a rock landscape that are nice to have in a terrarium. And of course, you can't have too many weird cutouts
Mm,
because if it's too much, then it looks artificial, But like a hide somewhere, or maybe like a place to bask or whatever, like you need those elements in a combination to have a complete setup. And I just stand in front of the terrarium, and I try to imagine where those points would look nice, and it's just, I don't know, it's
Yeah,
imagination.
same here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's
sometimes
like
it takes months, and then
Yeah. Can happen.
you add you add a ledge, and then you go back and you knock it down, and then you move it, and it's a
Yeah.
process.
yeah, it is. And also like with this terrarium, I also sketched a bit. But then once you start like getting the styrofoam and glue it in, it's like completely different, right?
Yeah.
Because then it looks
Yeah.
completely different, and it's also nice because I just realized and just go with the flow and not how you plan to do it, because then it's like forced,
Is
and
that
then
your
it doesn't
slogan?
look really nice. Yeah, that's the slogan.
Go with the flow.
Nice.
No, but yeah, but also I think the first background that I built, it was like so weird because I put in all the styrofoam, right? And then I just painted it. I didn't do anything to it. I didn't like cut
Oh, no
cut
coating
something
or
out.
Yeah.
oh my God.
Nothing.
Hey, but
Right? It did.
that's how Exoterra does it and sells them.
And
Yeah.
they make good money
Yeah,
out of
we
it,
all
right?
love those backgrounds, don't we?
Oh yeah, fuck. Like I've bought Exoterras and just cut up that piece of shit and made it into
Yeah.
something nicer, and use it as
Shout
a,
out to Exoterra.
huh?
Shout out to Exoterra.
No, fucking disrespect to the back wall.
Guess which podcast is never getting an Exeter sponsor.
No
Which
sponsorship
is
there.
okay. Which is okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, but true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can use the background from them to like dismantle and use
Yeah,
it
I've
as
seen a lot of people
styrofoam.
use that. They actually break it up in
Yeah.
pieces and
Yeah.
try to use it differently.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. But we all started somewhere, right? I remember, like, I think the first one that I did was the one that I told you about, and then it's just started. And for me, it took like a while. And then I just saw a picture of my old Dartfrog tank, the first one that I had. And it was the first time working with foam, right? And I just like sprayed the foam, and it just was like this big ball. And then I just cut out some things, and it was just a ball in like the edge of the enclosure. I think it's still on my Instagram because I don't delete it because
Oh, I have to go
it's
and
okay
check.
to see like the progress, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't know what I did, but I think it's also you have to get used to the material and okay, this
Yeah.
reacts like this. This is good when you spray water in it and this and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and different foams
I think
worked in different ways, and
yeah.
so you
And
really have to
sometimes it's
learn.
still yeah, and sometimes it's still not really working out how you plan it, right? It's
No.
because
Yeah,
everything is like
and
different.
even more so, like I did experiments with different materials and combination and whatever, and then when I thought, okay, this is really working for me, I'm gonna try it on a big wall piece. I managed to fuck it up. I don't know how,
Mm.
but it's just like the one day it works in a different way than in another. Maybe it's temperature related or whatever, and I did it on a really particularly hot day or something, but it can still surprise you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you guys
Yeah,
have a
for sure.
favorite method, or what works best for you when you build a back wall?
That really depends on what you want and like what kind of setup are you after. So
Yeah.
wet enclosures are so different than dry ones, and of course also it matters a whole lot what kind of animal you want to house in there.
And
Mm.
also rock have different textures,
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and therefore the material they use need to have different textures.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's always something I struggle with, like getting a nice natural looking texture that feels like a rock, looks like a rock, and not just
yeah,
freestyle cut styrofoam, because that's
Yeah.
always the
Yeah.
problem, like
yeah.
the artificial looking surface.
You just told us you're still using tile adhesive, right?
Yeah, I did.
Stop doing that.
Shame on me.
Shame
Okay.
on yeah,
No,
shame on
so
you.
am I. I'm using tile adhesive.
Yeah, stop doing that.
Yeah.
No, try cement. Like it makes a ton of difference.
I've tried cement before, but I think it's too rough. I
to
have
work with
trouble
or
getting
to
the
apply it?
material is kind of too I don't know. Yeah, it's too rough.
But you mix in sand, right?
No,
Why not?
because it's already sand mixed into it in the
Oh,
ones
okay.
that we have
So
here.
yeah, okay,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, it
Yeah,
depends. Yeah, you can buy mixtures like that, but you can
yeah,
also buy just like pure cement that you still have to throw in
yeah, yeah.
like sand yourself.
Hmm.
Then just mix it with water, and then you can, you know, change the amount of sand you have in there, and also make it less coarse, make it less rough.
mm,
Yeah,
But also, like, there's a ton of difference between one type of sand and the other.
yeah.
mm,
So those are little experiments that you can, do for yourself and figure out what kind of mixture suits your preferred rock type best.
I
yeah,
see.
that's true.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to say with this background, for example, I waited a bit too long for the cement to like it was a bit too hard to really work with it like in a proper way. I still managed to carve some things out, but I should have done it a bit earlier that I have more texture in it. I think that's the thing that I need to look at the next time. But I think you can also buy like a product that like gives you more time, that it's like in this nice stage where you can work with it, right?
Yeah,
Water?
I
If
suppose
I'm
so. But you can
not
also,
not water, not water.
what?
I don't
Can
know.
you can
Just add more water and it
Jacobs?
will be not as dry. No?
Well,
Yeah,
that's
that's true,
true, but it,
but that
it will be too
yeah,
runny
go for
to apply to your back wall.
Yeah.
It needs to
yeah.
be like almost like clay, like a
Mm,
little bit sticky, and that you can shape it with your fingers a little bit. Um, yeah, it's hard to explain, but even this takes some practice. How much water do you need to add? And
mm,
always be careful when you add it. And at some point you'll get the feel. But in this example, it really helps to watch videos of those guys that make huge wall pieces, like
mm,
rock walls inside, I don't know, rich people's houses or around fancy pools in the US or whatever.
Yeah.
They just throw on big chunks of cement, and then they have a lot of time to carve. But like how the material acts when they have it in their hands, that tells you a lot of about how you need to mix it yourself, and see if you can sort of copy that.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Has
think
anyone tried
that's the
the
difficult.
Oh, you go.
No, no, it's fine.
Okay. Has anyone tried the make?
Make.
Yeah, it's kind of I think it's clay based, I think.
Yeah.
It's a material they use in Denmark, I think. It's a Danish
Really?
brand. Yeah.
I don't know. Is it cement or
I don't know. I regret saying something. I have to
Uh,
check.
Can you
make
can you buy
me.
it?
Wait, I'm gonna check.
Never
You
heard
you
of
guys
that.
keep talking. I'll check this out.
Yeah, but also the hardware stores here are super weird. They have such a weird selection, like compared to the German stores. I was completely confused. They have like only one type of cement. I'm like, what the fuck? That's not how it used to be back home. So I was like very like, ah. But how many layers do you do? Is it now just like one big slab of cement that you smash on the background, or do you first do like a small coating and then with a second
um,
coating, like
I
a
use
bigger one?
3 layers usually.
Okay.
it really depends. So like they'll just ask what is your ideal method, but it really depends on the base. It depends on what you want to house. It depends on what kind of material you want to use for the cover layer. So in my opinion, like if you have a soft base like styrofoam, like the white stuff,
Mm.
um, it needs a thicker cover layer than, for example, when you use XPS foam. Like that is the like it's more dense, like the blue foam plates.
Mm. Yeah.
Use it in insulation of roofs in houses and all. That is so much. sturdier than styrofoam, that it allows you to use a thinner cover layer. So
Okay.
if I have enough laying around to build a back wall out of that, I only use one layer of cement, a thin layer, maybe, I don't know, 3 millimeters or so. Maybe in some spaces it will be thicker, but approximately that.
Mm.
Mm.
And when you start, like you glue in the pink styrofoam or blue styrofoam. How is it called? Styrodur? I think it's the German word.
Yeah, styrofoam.
Yeah. No, the other one that Ferdy just talked about, the
The
denser
XPS.
one. Yeah, XPS. So you glue it in the enclosure, and then you pre-cut some things. You have like already a shape in mind, or you do all the detail work and crevices like once you applied the cement.
No, so like if I use styrofoam, like that is way harder to cut in as many details as in XPS foam. Because
Mm.
styrofoam, it really sucks actually to do this, because all those little balls, they just pop off and they fly
Yeah.
around and they'll be on your clothes, and before you know it, throughout the whole house. XPS foam is so much nicer to work with and allows for you to cut out nicer details, and also it's more use if you are covering it with only a thin layer of cement.
Mm.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Did I explain
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
How do you do it, Jacob? What type
I
of
use
material are you using?
the big bold styrofoam. So I'm doing basically the opposite that Ferdy does.
Yeah, but it
Um,
still looks good, right? And that's also
yeah, I have my
different
method.
methods. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
But
once
I
But
had,
just
yeah,
figured,
sorry.
Jacob has way bigger enclosures and bigger animals.
mm,
So it
yeah,
like in his case, I wouldn't never carve out the small details that I'm doing right here, because like
Mm.
my
mm,
enclosures are so much smaller. So
yeah,
it pays off to have nicer, smaller details, because you'll see them actually. And
mm,
in Jacob's case, like you'll stand in front of a ginormous thing.
yeah,
You just have to see the big pieces that stand
mm,
out. It's so different.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, true.
that's true.
It makes it a bit easier because I don't have to add all the time
Yeah.
to do all of those tiny little details. But I'm using tiny little brushes and things at the end to get different textures on the rocks.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
on the big pieces of rock, I use the third layer of pile adhesive, and then I add kind of like poke tiny little holes and stuff like that to get the because then you use the watered out acrylic paints, and then you get the
Mm,
paint to actually be caught up into the different textures because yeah, the different textures traps paint differently because of the
mm,
texture.
yeah.
Yeah.
Think Tino
Interesting.
Antilla, I think I saw it in on one of his Instagram
Oh my
videos.
God, why isn't he here?
Yeah, for real. I think he also puts and floated it as well, like black paint into
Yeah,
a water spray bottle to
yeah.
get mix it with water, and then spray down the
At
nearly
age.
finished background.
Yeah,
Yeah, to get like a different coloration with the
yeah.
like watered down black running through the lower parts. That's also pretty interesting. But
Because if you go out and look at rocks, it's never just one color.
yeah,
Mm,
It's
mm,
all these different shades, and it's millions of years old.
yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah,
when you said that with the brushes, I once had the genius idea to put like to form the background with the styrofoam. I put like a metal brush on top of my power drill
oh my
and
God.
threw it on and it was like rushing over my background. It was good for getting a lot of texture, but these little white things were
Mm,
running through my apartment, like covering me completely in white foam.
yeah.
And it's so hard to get it off. That was like a very big mistake.
I mean, I
yeah.
think it's
Also annoying.
always going to be messy.
Yeah,
It's
it's
Yeah.
just a
always
matter
messy.
how how messy do you want it to be.
Yeah, you
It's
know what's the worst? Like top two together with styrofoam, clay powder.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh
that
my
yeah.
stuff
God.
just gets into the air and it sticks on onto everything, and you will like it's so impossible to get it off all the surfaces in your room.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. Maybe wear a mask also
Yeah,
when
I'm doing
doing
that.
that.
Also with expanding foam, by the
Yeah.
way. So like you, Jacob, I'm looking at.
Yeah, Ferdy he wrote to me, he's like, you know how this is toxic, right?
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, it's fine.
yeah. So from expanding foam, I don't know. Maybe it's useful to explain this a little bit, but for people that use it, expanding foam releases fumes containing isocyanates, and that is really toxic stuff. So it's worth investing in like a proper face mask with filters that you can just screw on.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I also
Like
do
a
that.
nice one will just cost you 40 euros or
Slow,
whatever.
slow. It's well.
You will
Oh my
live
God.
longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
you, it
that's
was
good.
30 euros. For us, it was be 40 years of our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't hope so.
No, I don't hope
It's
so
a
either.
it's a trade-off. Yeah, but that's maybe also smart because
Yeah,
sometimes I
maybe.
just go in there and then I'm like super hyped and now I'm gonna do it. And ah, I think with this one I also took more time than usual
Hmm.
because I don't have any animals at the moment and I'm not in a hurry. So I really took a lot of time to think about it and really plan it out and get everything first and then start building because sometimes I just rush in and then I'm like super hyped to build it. And I think that was also a very good solution this time to just like really take my time with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm always very fascinated, like you, Freddie, you work on your backgrounds. It feels like you work on there for a long ass time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't, I
It's
wouldn't
true.
have
Yeah.
like, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't have the patience, I think. I think
Yeah.
I worked a week on this one, maybe. But for me, it was like almost too
And that's
much.
Ferdy, you showed me like once. It's like, yeah, I started this project. I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome. It's gonna be great. And then it takes you back like 6 months later. It's like, yeah, how's it going? It's like, yeah, it's almost there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, yeah. I'm a busy guy, but also like I evaluate what I'm doing during working on it. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
like I get ideas and the project develops um, and gets upgrades while I'm working on it. It's not that I have a complete plan before I start doing it.
Hmm.
Um,
Mm.
and also like if I and I've had this. So if I finish a project and I look at it, I want to be confident that when I look at it a year later,
hmm.
that's about as long as I can wish, you know. That I'm still happy about it, and that I'm not starting to think even after a couple of weeks, like, oh yeah, fuck, I didn't think about that, or I should have done this or that. So different, and it doesn't
That's
work.
actually a good thing that we need to think about. This is
Yeah,
like a permanent home for your animals. They're gonna
yeah,
stay in there
exactly.
for years.
Yeah, and
So
it's
take your time.
there are there are a lot of demands. So it's if I just had to use or make a fake rock piece to just hang on the wall, no problem. I could do that in a weekend, easy.
Show off.
No, but seriously, it's not so hard. But now you have to, fit it in a like a small space. You have to think about how can I apply all the different techniques? How can I work with the materials I want to work with inside this cramped space? Or can I get it out and build it outside and then fit it in? How is that going to work?
Hmm.
Um, does the animal I want to house in there have enough places to heat up? Are there also places that aren't heated up? Does it have enough cover? Um, and does it look natural? Of course. There are so many different aspects about building a nice backwall piece for a terrarium that is going to house an animal. And to me, is a really complicated task.
Do you think about heat resistance and UV and stuff like that in the materials that you're using?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. I actually made a big mistake using silicone
Hmm.
on top of enclosures that at the time still had UV bulbs on top of them. I didn't realize that the silicone that I applied then was disintegrating because of the UV radiation
Mm.
over time.
Oh,
And by the time I found out, I had vipers in there.
Oh shit.
So like my room was absolutely snake proof, but at some point I found out that I could just press open the mesh on top in a few enclosures. And that was a
oh,
big fuck up. Of course, like nothing escaped.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, if I had housed animals in there that are, prone to escape, they
Ground
probably
pythons.
would have pushed open the
yeah.
mesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bluebrits or
Beluga,
illipids.
yeah.
Yeah.
Indigotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my vipers are super lazy. They just lay on the resting places, like the branches or the rock pieces, and they just wait for a mouse, and that's it. They never press against the mesh or something. So yeah, lucky me.
Yeah.
Maybe I have to
Yeah,
start getting
that's
into
true.
vipers. My pythons never want to stay in the enclosures.
Yeah.
I have to
Well,
go. I have to monitor proof everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Pythons
crazy.
are assholes.
Yes, they are.
The two that I have, I showed you the back wall that I made with the
Yeah.
removable rock ledges with the heating
Yeah. Yeah.
inside.
Mm.
Um, Yeah, it turned out there was a crevice there somewhere, and they could just fit their
Mm.
head in. And I
No.
couldn't even see a crevice, but they found something, and they
Oh,
just got behind the back wall.
Oh shit.
shit.
That's so shitty. And it's also so fascinating they can figure it out, right? They find places where there's like, you
Yeah,
imagine like, oh no,
Yeah.
that's all proof. And
yeah.
then like,
Impossible.
nope, it's not.
And the first moment you realize it's not in the places that you designed for it to be in,
Mm.
you're really convinced that it escaped, but
Yeah.
you don't understand how.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that
that's also
everybody was
maybe
like,
an
yep,
interesting.
yep, that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's maybe also a very interesting point, important point to make that you really need to make sure that your background is like also sealed to your
Yeah.
back wall, because otherwise, if you have like a snake or a
Hmm.
lizard
Yeah,
climbing down there, it can also end like fatal for them.
yeah,
Yeah. If
yeah,
they press down
Or
on the
like
animals.
feeder insects feeding through the back wall. I also had it in the beginning. I had like cornet lizards, and I put some crickets in there,
Mm.
and it's one fucking cricket through this way through the styrofoam, and it
Yeah.
was in my bedroom, and I couldn't sleep. I needed to sleep at my parents' like bedroom on the floor for a week until we had this fucking cricket, and it's like so annoying.
Is there any way to prevent that? Because I also sometimes think if isopods also would chew on the styrofoam, because crickets definitely would, right?
Make sure to seal everything properly.
Mm.
No styrofoam showing anywhere.
yeah. What I usually do when I start building is I pick one piece of styrofoam and just press it against the back wall, and I use that to attach ledges on from the
Mm.
front. So I always have a completely, you know,
Oh, you use a
a
flat
flat
surface
surface to
at the
to
back.
really cover the back wall. There's no gap there.
Hmm.
But with the pythons, I did something differently.
Yeah.
Instant regret. Yeah, true. Are there also some things that the listeners should definitely avoid beside, yeah, not sealing or using tile glue or something like this?
I will check. I actually made a list of this.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
my God.
I'm prepared.
Yeah.
Very.
Oh yeah. So on top of the list is don't underestimate pythons.
Check.
Oh,
Um,
That's the episode name.
yep. I that felt personal.
Yeah.
no, there are a bunch of things. Yeah, like don't underestimate your animals is a general thing because I once did a piece for a friend of mine that wanted to house a chameleon in a nice setup, and that chameleon actually started biting off pieces of the wall.
What?
Yeah, and it
Okay.
completely surprised me because those pieces had two or three layers of tile adhesive still at the time, using tile adhesive. And I was blown away. Like, I was like wondering how can this animal have enough bite force to just take a chunk out of styrofoam covered by a thick layer of tile adhesive?
Jesus.
I have no clue. So yeah, double check if everything you do can hold the animal you want to house in there.
Do you coat your backgrounds with anything?
Right now I do. Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Epoxy.
epoxy or yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like other things in the list. Don't make any hides that you cannot check into.
Mm.
Can be really important for some animals.
Mm.
Um, like for basic maintenance, but also like if something is wrong with the animal, or if you're not sure if the animal is still in the enclosure, it can be tricky to
Yeah.
inspect all the spaces that it can get into. Um, also, like I've done pieces with space for plants, in wet enclosures, and I just use expanding foam to make plant pots, like the plastic pots into the hardscape.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, but it's like um, it's very useful to have plant knowledge, like pretty extensive plant knowledge before you start doing things like that, because you need to estimate how a plant will fill up the space. And I have pieces now that I put plants into that don't cover up the pot. So they will just grow out and follow the light and just cover up the back wall. Um, but in the front of the place that they grow out of, you can still see half of the pot.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Mm.
So
yeah. You also often see like plant pots like this very close to a heat lamp and the
yeah,
plant just burning away.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Having plants in enclosures is yeah. You can make a separate podcast out of that if you haven't
Yeah.
done it already.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did.
Also, like, just some people putting like ficus in the back wall, like a little ficus tree. It's also is not with the ficus. Maybe it's a bit natural because they also can grow on like rock surfaces. But choose a species that is also like fitting to the background. Don't put like a big tree or something onto a background. I think it also looks kind of weird, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
Yep.
yeah. Like in general, I find that people use too many bromeliads.
Mm.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Praise the
Yeah.
word. Don't use so much
And too
bromeliads.
many colorful ones as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like it looks like a clown exploded in the tank.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm checking what I noted. Yeah, if you're into making pieces with a lot of details, it's worthwhile to plan ahead and see if you can still reach everything with a brush that you need to cover in, I don't know what, epoxy or whatever your preferred method of covering it all is.
Mm.
And also because in the case of epoxy, like if you don't cover it, it will just be like a shiny top layer, and
Yeah.
most people don't like that, and they just want to cover it with sand or soil or whatever. But it's like in hard to reach places, it's one thing to be able to push the brush behind a branch or whatever you made and cover the surface in epoxy, but then you still have to throw in the substrate and have to reach in there with your fingers and press it on because otherwise it will
Yeah.
just fall off. So those things are maybe a personal thing that I run into a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Working with
Um,
epoxy. No, I
yeah,
hate it.
yeah.
It's such a mess. I did it also in the big enclosure, and it's like, oh, it's so annoying. And sometimes you don't even see have I already like brushed over it or not, or it's like, I had some spots on the fake background in the big greenhouse where it was like super shiny and it was just like, ah, looks so ugly.
Yeah.
And then you see the spot every time you look in the enclosure and you're thinking like, what have
Yeah.
I done?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be really annoying. So, um, yeah, also like mistakes I made in the past, um, considering making vines are really nice to talk about because every time I post something, people are asking me, "Oh, how do you make the vines?" And I almost never tell them because it's such a long story. And I also managed to create a lot of vines that I well kind of fucked up, which turned out in a long time because right after you make them, they're awesome. Like however you make them, almost they look
Yeah.
really nice. But some really disintegrated over time, and I don't know if you can like see this, but I picked up a couple of pieces.
Yeah.
Is this
Uh,
visible?
Yeah.
You can see the
Oh,
white pieces,
nice.
yes.
right? So
Yeah.
these are made out of rope, and the cover layer just completely came off. This is in a wet enclosure.
Uh,
In a dry
Mm.
enclosure, they will probably hold maybe until eternity, but the cover layer just came off entirely. And I think I do so many different things, so I always have to think back what I did in this case. I think this is with Elastoper. I don't know if you
mm-hmm.
use
Mm.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then just covered it in peat. And like I say, it looks really nice, but that stuff disintegrated in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or whatever to this bare rope. Um, and like one of the problems is like if I press here, you can see that it's still bendy, you know?
Yeah.
Mm,
The pieces that are still holding, yeah, they are with
yeah.
them. So one thing you really have to do when making vines like this from a soft material like rope is first cover it in something that will harden the surface and
Mm.
make it like a non-flexible shape almost.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if you have a product called Compact Tuna or Flevopol. It's very famous in the Netherlands. Has been used by generations of
Yeah.
terrarium. But it's
Mm.
like it's almost like a sort of liquid latex. I think
Mm.
it's a
Okay.
plastifier they call it, and it's used in masonry. So people mix it into cement to have a more like flexible, more durable, more waterproof
Mm.
cement.
Oh,
But that
okay.
stuff is it just comes in a jar and it's just a white sticky fluid that you can just apply onto a rope like this with a brush. And it
Okay.
may need a layer or three, maybe four in some cases, but you will just have like a plastic covered rope in the end. That makes it way easier to cover it in anything else, and it will stay good for way longer. So that's a really valuable lesson that I learned myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you feel about the PVC pipe kind of ropes or branches that some people made? Have you ever tried
Uh,
it?
you mean,
Yeah, some people
like,
you heat it up and wait.
oh shit, you can't see it like this?
Yeah.
But,
Oh, wow.
Oh my God.
Oh wait,
wait.
Oh, it's coming in and out.
I'll turn off my background and I'll show you.
Yeah. But this is out of the PVC pipes.
It's
When you
different.
just heat it up and kind of
Yeah,
bend
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that looks awful.
yeah.
Yeah, so there it is again.
Oh, it
Wow.
looks, man, it looks so dope.
I
That's
just like
crazy.
That's
I,
insane.
Yeah,
you want to buy it?
yeah.
How much?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm gonna use it in setups that I'm building now. I pulled it out of a setup that I'm ditching, but I
Yeah.
couldn't say goodbye to this piece.
Yeah,
You talk
it's
So
about
this is
convenience in a
Yeah.
while back.
what?
To get the animals out. Talk about convenience
Out of this?
out of any background.
Oh, that's no problem.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah.
No, I mean yeah, it takes skill, of course, but
Yeah.
if you know how to no, okay, wait. In your case, I get it. Pythons are assholes, like we like
Is
we
that the thing?
concluded
Yeah, we
before.
already established that.
Yeah, no, Pythons are so stubborn and they just want to get away from you. But I mainly keep small vipers in enclosures like
Ah,
this.
okay. So then it's
I
fine.
find them pretty easy to handle.
But isn't it also a pain to get them out there? Like I imagine small viper crawling behind it or holding onto all these ropes.
Um, no.
No?
I mean, like you can use hooks to manipulate them,
Yeah.
and like
Mm.
they almost never dive into like a hiding space and just curl up in there like a python does. They start moving and I
Yeah,
don't know
I could never do that.
what, like
See, a
tickle
background
them
like
out.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, takes me hours.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
So you
yeah.
chose
No,
the wrong species, bro.
And I'm questioning all my
wrong
life
species.
choices.
And that's what you are here for today.
Yeah. I just want to talk to Ferdy alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Also, vipers, you can just kind of manipulate them and touch their body with the hook and like in places that they just feel the urge to start moving. And of course, you have to be, I don't know, trained to some level
You have to have a
to know
sense
how to
of
do this.
the
But
animal.
it's still possible if you know how to. It's possible. And with a Python, it's just, I don't know, luck and perseverance and frustration,
Yeah, that's it.
anger.
Pure hate.
Tears. Yeah, right.
Just gonna pull it out by
Yeah,
force.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
crazy. But how did you do this background piece?
Yeah,
Did you
so yeah, I was,
just
I was gonna show that.
Oh yeah, just gonna
hand up in the
PVC
camera?
pipe.
Um, yeah, so like this piece is, can you see this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
Like from up here, like onto here,
Yeah.
doing my hand, like
yeah.
this is basically like a base of a tree, you could say. And I made that out of PVC amongst others.
Mhm.
So that has a hard surface, of course, and
Mhm.
I covered it in expanding foam.
Mhm.
And you can apply it in such a way that it kind of forms a more or less round shape. Um, because if you bend PVC, of course, you get these flat pieces, right? Uh,
Mm.
like sharp angles in it. So if you
Yeah.
then want to cover it in something as a top layer, you'll still see that it's a bent piece of PVC. It's ugly. So
Mm.
you need to have something to fill up the gaps that you don't want to see. So I use expanding foam for that. Um, so part of this is PVC, and other parts that is also something that really worked nicely for me are rolls of RVS mesh, like fly screen.
Mhm.
And those were just pieces of rubbish I had laying around, and it felt like a waste to throw them out. And I just got the idea to just roll them up, and you can fill them up with expanding foam and also cover them, and the foam will get into all these holes and whatever. And like same story, you just make a more or less flat outer layer in the shape of a tree branch or a root, and you combine tons of those shapes, and you just shape a foam. It's gonna be a shit story. Like you shape like the base of the tree on top of that to connect
Yeah.
them all,
Yeah.
Mm.
um, and then you get a piece to cover. And it's all really hard surface because it's expanding foam like pressed into that,
Mm.
and it worked like a charm. So this piece, like it looks like I just made it last week, but it's 6 years old and has been in a wet enclosure.
Wow.
Wow,
But
that's crazy.
You use the method that you let them the expanding foam harden a little bit and then kind of push to
Yeah,
shape
so
it.
some people apply it and then just let it go and expand the fuck out of itself and then
Yeah.
start carving. But what you get then is a really like a fluffy foam. So it's really soft and has a lot of air trapped in there.
Mm.
But if you apply it, then wait, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. Never use the timer. Then just spray it down with a lot of water, and also
Mm.
like have really wet hands. You can touch it without it sticking to your skin, and you can kind of shape it. So if you do that, you can just have the shapes that you want around the pieces of PVC or mesh. And then also it's like it solidifies way denser without almost without any trapped air into it. And it will be
Mm.
super hard. I mean, not rock hard like cement, but
Yeah.
pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah, also always spray down the glass before I apply
Yeah.
the the foam. Also helped out a lot. But it's like with the big enclosure. I don't know how do you do it, Jacob, with like bigger enclosures? Because I feel like you can use so much material, right? And you want to like save on it because you could fill up. You can buy a lot of foam and styrofoam to build a
No,
backward. It's like
I'm going through bags of styrofoam.
mm,
I'm buying expanding foam by the 6 packs every single time.
man,
Really?
Yeah,
man, this man
because
got
it takes.
money.
Oh man, it's so much. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah,
My animals need to breed so I can get some money back.
Yeah,
Yeah, but no,
yeah.
it's just it's the same method, but I'm using I can't really compress it as much because I need to cover such an area.
Mm,
So it's a lot of the rock walls kind of are hollow inside,
mm,
and I use a lot of the shaping of the rock instead.
no.
But yeah, it's still a lot. I can't really do the pressing thing. I need all the air I can get to get as much volume as
Yeah,
possible.
it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I built the bigger enclosure, I also built like these f- rock cages out of this chicken coop wire. I
Oh,
made like shapes with this and then covered it with the foam. That way you can cover a lot more surface and when it expands a little bit,
yeah.
then you only need maybe 1.5 cans per like big rock and it's in the middle hollow, it's also lightweight. That was like pretty smart to do because otherwise would have spent like hundreds of euros to
Yeah.
build this rock wall.
The thing is, I have noticed with the rock walls because uh, except yeah, with the pythons, they love the kind of like a heavy hide to be underneath because if
Mm.
it's too light, they kind of feel insecure. So I need to get some weight onto like the yeah, if I do a standalone kind of cover uh, a cage, like you said, a
Mhm.
cave structure kind of
Mm.
hide thing. It can't be too light. You need to have some weight to it. I'm struggling
Mm.
with that.
Yeah,
That's a
you can
weird
imagine
sentence. But
like
yeah.
if I would start building Python enclosures, I that would kind of mean a completely new start to techniques I'm using
Mm.
now because there are
I've
so many other things that I have to take into account.
yeah. I've tried to use a wooden frame
Yeah.
to get the kind
Yeah.
of to make it a little bit heavy. And then I kind of shape the rock around it.
Mm.
did that work out well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has so far.
Nice.
I think you can
Have you
do
ever
the
tried
same with
like
the PVC kind of thing, but then you get the
yeah, true.
lightweight, but you don't get the risk of the wood being in the substrate to get mold or damaged because of the water and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
Have you ever, Jacob, have you ever tried like the method that those people use that build fake rocks in zoos and whatever? So like the thicker iron wire, yeah,
no,
and just shape rocks out of that,
no,
and then maybe use chicken coop mesh,
yes,
whatever.
yeah.
and
Not
like
not the
spray
heavier stuff.
concrete on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. Get a big tanker outside the apartment.
Yeah.
Just spray it
Yeah.
in.
It
No,
always
the thing
looks
is,
cool on videos.
I mean, the thing is, I have to move sometimes.
Sometimes.
The Zeus usually doesn't.
Yeah.
You have
So,
to or you choose to.
but that's for another day. That's not what we're here to talk about.
Okay.
Oh, you had to move out?
And that's for another day, Flo.
Next
We can also
episode
make a
on Jacob's
yeah.
Or
life.
no episode.
I'm curious now.
Yeah, we can hit me up in the DMs.
Do you have like the snakes at the moment at your apartment, or is it again separately?
No, we have
Like
a
all the
studio.
enclosures?
We have a
Okay.
studio, me and a couple of friends.
Nice.
That makes it also easier, right? To
Yeah,
work with it.
yeah. We get some good big space dedicated for the animals. Um, and we have some birds as well, some parrots and some dart frogs and geckos and then it's
Yeah.
like a tiny little community. We help each other, someone has to leave out for a while. Like Ted in
Yeah.
Yeah,
down
I
in
wanted to say, yeah.
Germany. Yeah. And then so yeah, we help each other out. We got a big space, everybody can use each other's tools to build the enclosures and stuff.
That's super cool. Also makes it way easier to travel
Yes,
because with special animals, it's always hard to find someone to look
exactly.
after
It's
them.
not like take my dog for a week.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
And also who you trust, right? It's not,
yeah,
that's also another thing.
yeah.
And also it's very good to share like tools because when you start with it, you need to buy some stuff, right?
It's
And it's good
expensive.
to,
Mm.
yeah. Especially
Yeah,
when you want to have like good things. That's what
yeah.
I learned like over the years. Just invest like one time in something good and not buy like shitty stuff like four times and spend double the amount of the
Hmm.
one-time investment. I think it's also maybe a pretty good advice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with tools. True.
Yeah, yeah, it's like
I do that with brushes though. I buy a new set every single time because they get so damaged from building the
Yeah.
backgrounds. You have to
yeah,
brush on the tile adhesive and the concrete and everything. And so I buy the cheapest shit I can find.
Yeah. But it
yeah.
makes sense also. Like for epoxy, of course, you can't reuse them anyway.
Oh,
No,
stand in the
yeah,
kitchen, try to wash it out.
yeah.
No,
Yeah, it is. Have you ever worked with like a big block of styrofoam where you're like,
but carve it out like a marble piece.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That
No,
always also looks satisfying as hell.
yeah, no. Maybe I should
Yeah, maybe that's an option.
make a
I don't know.
tree kind of. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, for a bigger setup, it's like, or for a really big room or something. And I mean, for example, in Ben's case, if he would build like a
Oh
background,
my
I
God,
mean,
yes.
he would need some like big material.
Yeah. I'm using these blocks. They're like 120, 80 something.
Mm.
Yeah, like 10 centimeters thick. I use those quite a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there, I'm wondering, are there any like new or different methods that you guys haven't tried out with building backwards that you want to try out in the near future? Is there anything new on the market?
I see a lot of guys working with how do you say that, like casts or
Yeah.
templates.
Yeah, I want to try that as
Mhm.
well.
And also people working with epoxy clay and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Hmm.
And it looks really cool. And I've thought about it. I would like to have a template to make like a nicer surface for fake branches.
Mhm.
So I've started doing less like thick vines that I just showed you because results were mixed over the years. And recently I started to make more like fake branches with a cover layer of cement and then epoxy and you know not like the dirt stuff with peat that I just showed you. And it would be nice to have a template to make like a tree bark structure on that. That I
Mm.
would love to have.
Yeah. True.
Making nice trees is very difficult.
Mhm.
It's a tricky thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. But then sometimes when I see it or when I build it, I'm always like, okay, it's so weird because you want to recreate nature, right? And but then you use so much like material that is not from nature at all.
Yeah.
You use foam to make a rock and paint it with
Yeah.
paint. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it why we do it, right? But on the other hand, it's also sometimes just weird to like recreate a tree, but you can also get a branch. Of course, it will like over time degrade, but it's always like it's
Yeah.
fascinating why we do it sometimes.
Yeah. So that's why I try to use used materials.
Mm.
So almost all the foam that I use, I just get from people that pull apart their shed or their roof, or friends of mine visit a lot of greenhouses and they find the XPS foam plates in the garbage,
Mm.
like tons of it, and it's just thrown out. And I always ask him to, if he sees it, bring it to me,
Hmm.
so we'll get a second life here.
Yeah, that's
At
true.
least that will reduce the impact a little bit.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, it's very true what you say. It's very um, how do you say that? It's not really logical to
Yeah.
do the things we do if we love nature in a
Yeah,
way.
and
Yeah.
also not really sustainable, and also maybe not even like in some cases healthy for the animals. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing, you can also fuck up your animal pretty bad with like,
There's like a lot of plastic
yeah,
and
plastics
with a
and
lot of heat.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I would be hesitant to apply the methods I apply now for amphibians, because I
Mm,
simply, like, I see people do it all the time, but I simply don't know what things that I use are safe or what not.
mm,
Mm.
yeah,
I don't know. Snakes are different.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's why I don't have any amphibians because I don't know.
Too fragile. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe it's just me. Maybe they're fine. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
but it feels wrong, right? If you
Yes.
when I see the guys from the US just like putting on dry lock and hose it down one time with water and then 1 week
And it's
later
done.
putting it. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Nothing
yeah,
harmful left.
maybe the frogs are fine. Don't know. Depends probably.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you think people would share if it didn't work? Or they just want to share the beautiful enclosure stuff?
Would they know that is the
yeah.
cause of death?
true.
True, true.
I'm sometimes also wondering if it's maybe like because a lot of people have issues with like tadpoles coming out with weird deformations and stuff like that. Is it maybe also because there's uh, something from the background leaking into the skin of the amphibians, and that way they have abnormalities because of that.
Mhm.
Maybe.
I mean, we would never know,
Yeah.
right? Because there's so many factors that we can fuck up while keeping the animals that we have.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
difficult. And I mean, how many people go to the vet and check their dead animal? And then
Even then, maybe it's hard to
even then
tell.
it's hard
Yeah.
to tell, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A vet, I don't know if a vet would ever think about checking blood values for,
Yeah,
I don't know, pollutants coming from whatever.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if it's even possible with a normal vet that he
Mm.
can,
Microplastics.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
A
Oh,
completely
weird.
different thought where you can also very find good styrofoam is like at IKEA. They always have like
Yes.
back of IKEA, they have like a
Swedish.
yeah,
We
there
win
we are.
again.
The trash bins filled with like styrofoam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you get from when buying a TV or stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I love those weird kind of shaped
Yeah,
pieces.
yeah.
Those are
I was
great.
like, oh, it would be a nice water bowl or something like it. That's where I have always like issues like to create like a nice looking water bowl, like out of styrofoam and expanding foam and
Yeah.
epoxy. I always have like some sort of leakage. I don't know, like
Yeah.
it's never really good.
Yeah, that's also something I struggle with. Like in the Lepidophyma enclosure, I have like one of these shallow mini glass tanks, I think 30 times 30 or 40 times 40. I think it's okay. Now I have like stones decorated around it, plants growing. So it's kind of covered, but it looks unnatural. But also it's difficult to have like a bigger water feature that's fully natural. Or maybe I'm not creative enough. But if you have any ideas, let me know.
Maybe send me some photos.
Yeah, my next project will be like a new setup for the other Lepidophyma that I have, 2 meter times 80 times 80 enclosure, and there I want to have like a very big, of what that very big, but bigger water part. So maybe you have some ideas.
You know, some ideas I never worked out for water features. Um, this is like also a nice tip in general, to search for inspiration outside of the terrarium scene. So there are so many people doing crazy stuff with, landscape models in the model train world, for example.
Yeah, I checked the model train world as
Yeah,
well.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
So
Those
interesting.
are awesome. Yeah.
dioramas
Mm.
for, I don't know, like these tiny figures that they play around with, or
Warhammer
I don't
40,000.
insult anyone, but I really don't know what they do with it. But they build crazy landscapes, and also with epoxy resin.
Mm.
Some people made an art out of creating like fake river pieces. Even
Yes.
the impression that there is running water.
Mm.
hmm
Oh, have you
Um,
seen when they kind of spray glue?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so fascinating.
yeah,
Insane.
absolutely. So, like what I was thinking at some point was like it would be super nice to have like one of these fake rivers, maybe not with the fake turns in there because it would just look weird.
Mm.
But with a fake still body of water in a sort of imitated creek bed that has a piece in it that you can lift out without it being visible, and that functions as a water bowl.
Oh, yo.
So you get what I
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I get
hidden
what
in
you mean.
there.
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Man.
you won't have the ugly water bowls anymore in the enclosure, but just the creek bed with a hidden sort of deeper pocket that holds water.
That's
Nice.
cool. So like rest water.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's a great
That I would
idea.
love to have in my
Yeah,
enclosure. That would really finish
that's cool.
things that I'm doing. But I don't know, it felt like such a huge challenge that I never dove into it.
Yeah, and also how do you test it, right? And you only have so many tries because in my
Mm.
case I only have this one enclosure and I'm not going to have another one. Like
Oh,
it's
fuck. I have
For
to
now.
redo everything now.
yeah, yeah. For me it's like a very slow process also to learn how to build a background because
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
like over the last few years I only had like one or two enclosures, right? And then to make like big steps with like building better ones it take years to like getting better.
Yeah.
And also, I don't want to just like randomly build like a background and that maybe looks like ugly as hell because A, nobody will buy it for me, and B, I will never have like usage for it. Like,
Yeah.
and
You
then
can use
spend,
I have a plan that if you want to do like a standalone to try out different methods and stuff, and then it turns out great, you can
yeah.
use the Exoterra standard measurements. So
Mhm.
if it actually becomes good, but you can't use it, you can sell it to someone and say it's
Oh
it's
yeah.
actually fitted for enclosure sizes that other people have.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
idea.
But man, I would feel so bad because there's so much more people out there that are way, way, way better than me. I would feel, I wouldn't dare to sell my backgrounds, I
None
think.
of these people started off great.
Yeah, but still, like,
It's not like they
I
came out of
don't
the
know.
mum. It's like, oh yeah, epoxy and using
Yeah.
peat moss and stuff.
But Flo, the opposite is also true. There are so many people selling stuff that just um, look like complete pieces of shit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know,
sounds
it's
There's
about
more of
marketing or
those.
whatever, but sorry.
There's more of those people. Yeah,
I've never counted them,
selling
but
shit.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Look at
yeah.
this hobby.
And
I
then
mean,
also like
Yeah, true.
companies that make terrariums with 3D backgrounds in there, and they ask a lot
Mm,
of money, and the backgrounds always look like, well, not always, but in
most
lots
of
of
yeah,
the
cases,
time.
they look like shit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm always wondering who buys this.
But did you sold your terrariums, Ferdy? Did somebody had interest in them?
No, no, actually, no.
Th- That's so sad,
No
right?
interest.
That's crazy.
Nobody, no. Like
Maybe you
some
should.
people liked it, and one guy asked, "Yeah, what is the price?" A friend of mine is probably interested, and I gave him the price, and I never heard back from him. So
Classic. My friend isn't interested anymore.
yeah, maybe his friend had to ask his wife. I don't know.
Classic. Yeah.
Oh, classic.
Yeah. So no, I still have them. So I don't know. Do you guys think like, am I asking way too much? Like the
What are you
terrariums are
asking for them?
40 by 40 by 70.
10,000.
10,000.
1,000, yeah. Million, yeah. No, Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine, just
Just
try to
one
price it
Bitcoin.
like unrealistically high. Maybe somebody buys it.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm asking 200 for each.
Huh?
What?
What?
It's true, Ferdy Timmerman.
Yeah. Man, that's
I
not
don't need it,
expensive.
but 200?
That's
Yeah,
not too
It's
much, right?
no.
you're asking
If I had
200?
Yeah.
That's nothing.
You want to buy them?
No.
something,
Man,
yeah,
What am
man,
I
I
gonna put
actually.
in? What am I gonna have?
the Python,
Am I gonna squeeze in a tiny, I mean, the scrubs? What am I gonna do?
Yeah, I
Morelia.
mean, US style enclosure, like a big snake and small enclosures.
Yeah, exactly. Thin and high for the green
Maybe
tree pythons.
incubate eggs in there.
Yep, probably.
But man, 200.
Like a little
I actually
shell.
thought about it, but I don't have any space here.
I would love to have them, but then I need to buy more animals. So it's not 200 anymore
Not if you choose to just house plants in there for a while.
Yeah.
for a while. It's gonna last like a week.
Maybe after the podcast, someone will reach out. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Buy the
Should we leave
enclosure.
the part with the enclosures in or not?
What do you mean?
Yeah, you left the background, your background.
This.
Yeah, did you give up?
Oh yeah, I never put the forest back. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
okay.
fine.
Okay. They have to stay
Yeah.
Okay,
to
yeah.
see
These.
the secrets.
Well, you don't see any secrets here.
Good. Let's try
I
that.
mean, like my setup is not really on Instagram or whatever, but
Yeah. Is
it
there a
should be.
specific reason? Yeah, is there a specific reason for it? Or just like something that you just wanna keep for yourself?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of personal, you know.
Mm.
So like in this podcast, there will be probably fewer people seeing it.
Yeah.
Like it's such a like a niche audience, so I don't
Mm.
really know.
Yeah.
Like Instagram is like I don't have a private account.
Mm.
Everybody can see what I have and what I'm doing, and that's not really why I have Instagram. I'm not the guy that wants to show off with stuff that I have or whatever.
Mm.
I just like to share hobby stuff, exchange experiences with other people that are like-minded, and maybe share some photos of animals that I had in front of my camera and that I really love. That's the whole goal. I really don't give a shit about number of followers or uh, attention or like
Mm.
being viewed as one of these guys with a big collection, or I really don't care about things
Yeah.
like that. So,
That's true passion.
and also like
Love it.
um, there is this sort of a negative aspect to me about showing off, having a huge collection of animals. Like I don't want to encourage anyone to have animals, keep animals, or do whatever this is. If they want to have them, they'll get the idea somewhere by themselves, and then hopefully take the right decisions and house them the best way they can. But I don't want people to have the idea from me. Does that
Mm.
like
Yeah,
Mm.
I know what you mean.
Understandable. Yeah. At least do it responsible, not
yeah,
just start collecting like crazy.
yeah, I've seen that too much. I'm not as involved in the community as I was in the chameleon days,
Mm,
but I like so many times I saw people sharing photos of what they kept on forums, and then other people responded and said, "Oh, I really need to have those too," or even photos of animals in the wild, and said, "Yeah, I really need to keep that in an enclosure." And like to me, that felt always felt wrong.
mm,
You shouldn't think about all these animals you see as something you want to keep.
mm,
It may sound really like hypocrite or something coming from me because I have a bunch of animals, but I always look at the responsibility um, that has to go with it, in my opinion. Like I really hate buying wild caught animals. I always
mm,
check it, like if they're captive bred, and also what is the impact on the population in the wild. So the species that I have are either super common in the wild, or very easy to breed, or um, like the impact has to be super low, and
mm,
it's often very hard to get all the info to have a complete picture of that. But for example, um, like I have the Sri Lankan pit vipers,
Mhm.
mm,
Trigonocephalus. I don't actually know if they were ever exported from Sri Lanka
mm,
legally, but they have been in the hobby for so long and they're super easy to keep, super
mm.
easy to breed. So I'm 100% sure that the hobby population now doesn't have an impact on the wild population. So
Yeah.
in that perspective, I find that a species that is how do you say that?
Mhm.
Okay to keep, maybe just like,
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
yeah, I totally get what you mean. But I think for me, it's like over the last year or something, I just realized that it's like not important to have something. Actually, no. After like getting giving away the Indian readers, and I had like this phase where I had nothing. I was thinking about, yeah, okay, I just want to keep something, but then I had like a lot of different ideas what I can keep, and then at some point I wanted to get the Ceratophora. And no, at first the Ceratophora, then my money was going places, right? And then I was like, oh, the Cofotes would be so nice to keep them in the balcony, and they're not that big. But then I was also like, okay, this is like a species from Sri Lanka. It was also like most of the animals here are not legal or in a legal way. Then there's like only a super small handful of people working with them. A lot of breeders don't really have success. They just randomly die. And then you buy an animal and you know there's only like a small gene pool in this hobby, and there's like no future at all. You
Mhm.
won't get
Mm.
any new blood in, and
Yeah.
you're just gonna inbreed and inbreed and inbreed, and that's just not nice. Like that's just fucked up to just say, yeah, okay, I'm gonna buy it. Well, fuck it.
Well,
Eh,
but there's an interesting point there because like reptiles, they're not too sensitive about inbreeding. So
yeah,
you can inbreed them. How do you say that? For a
yeah,
number of generations without noticing any effects. Um, at some point there will be effects because like I can actually tell you about an example in the wild here in the Netherlands in an adder population. You can start seeing that in a number of scales in their head. Like they
yeah,
will show defects in the amount and shapes of scales because the population has just crashed over the years. So at
crazy.
some point there will be effects, but they're
Yeah,
still reproducing. But
yeah, but
if they are reproducing in a hobby, then at least that means that there is no direct urge to pull more of them out of the wild.
yeah. But I feel like for me, it was like also if I know that it's like over time only inbreeding possible, right? For me, it was also like, yeah, no, I don't want personally, I don't want to do it because for me personally, it felt just like wrong with just knowing, yeah, okay, it's gonna be inbred at some point. It's just doesn't feel right to
Yeah.
do it. I mean, with maybe you buy like let's say a leopard gecko and you buy another leopard gecko from a different breeder and you don't even know that they are siblings or something, you can't avoid it. But if you know it's gonna be inbreeding, then in my opinion, it's not something.
Doomed from the start.
Yeah, and then I also had this phase where I was like, do I really like need Instagram? I really like it to share my stuff and to connect with people, but then also you feel so pressured in some sort of way because you want to show your enclosure. Then sometimes it's just like, it would be cooler to enjoy it for yourself and just make decisions like how you like it. And I think it was also a very valuable time without animals. That is like, okay, focus on maybe not buying the fancy species out there, just like keep it for fun. Because I thought
Yeah.
about it, the last time I had like really fun. I mean, the Enyalides were like great. I really loved them, but I hadn't had like a fun species in a while. Like I think the Pristurus category gonna be so fun and interactive, and that's I think a part
Maybe
that I
try
really
some pythons.
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't had it in a long
Like,
time that I really interacted with
yeah.
an animal.
That's what I have with
Yeah.
my blackheads. They're
I don't
super.
really interact with my animals.
Yeah,
Too venomous.
Yeah,
yeah,
you can do it
free
once.
handling.
I can do what?
You can do it once.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe Ferdy freehand link or something like
Yeah,
this on Instagram.
All the
never.
cool guys free
Yeah.
handle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get yourself a cowboy hat and
Yeah.
go
Now
crazy.
we're gonna get some mean comments, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say so much shit, but no.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, but it's
Maybe.
an interesting topic. So like,
Should we
and
do
to
another
me, like, no,
episode about this?
to
Because
me,
Okay.
it
the
feels like
the
we have a lot to talk about here.
Yeah,
yeah,
true.
of course. No, so keeping animals that at least have the fun about that is for me is to have a nice enclosure and see an animal in a environment that is as natural as I can give it.
Hmm.
And then like what kind of animal it is, that becomes less important, you know.
Mm.
If it's just the animal and it's the enclosure is always the same, like I kind of had when I kept chameleons. I mean, it wasn't really like that, but you know what I mean. Then it becomes more important to have an animal that is, you know, sort of special to look at. So you don't want the more common species anymore. But if it's a complete picture, that changes things.
Hmm.
To me, then more common things are as much fun to keep as things you hardly ever see.
Wise words. That's true. Like having this little habitat running and the
Isn't
animal
that
is a
isn't
centerpiece
like
of that.
70% of getting the animal is researching where does it come from, how does it behave, what does it need, building up the enclosure, make it look like a tiny little. Why would you want to have an Australian animal if you don't want a piece of Australia in your home? With the red sand and all the spinifex, and it looks amazing. It's like an aquarium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't eat all the worst, the fish bowl kind of, goldfish kind of bowl thing. That's like racks to me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the
Also,
poppy pad people, the newspaper people.
yeah.
Oh,
Fuck that.
ooh. Oh, I'm getting
Yeah.
sick
I
just
mean,
talking about
I
it.
realize that I have a few plastic boxes in the background
Our
here.
quarantine is a different thing,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Well, that is
Or to get them to eat, or
this is Python management.
yeah.
I had to pull the background apart again, those
Ah.
fuckers.
Oh, yeah. See, there's a reason. They're not going to stay in there forever.
Yeah. You know, like I have what are they called in English? a coral cobra, Aspidelaps.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I remember those.
yeah,
You don't
so
have it anymore?
yeah, I do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
it's really fun.
Yeah.
But before I got that one, I started watching YouTube videos and I saw this guy, and he was very knowledgeable. So I learned a lot from his video. But the only negative thing to me was that he kept it in a rack on a substrate of wood shavings,
Yeah.
Mhm.
for guinea pigs and whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I would never do that, and I just keep it on sand. And if you know these animals, they love to dig in the sand. They push
Use
their head in,
use
and
their head and kind of,
exactly
yeah.
they just scoop out bits of sand and they just create burrows for themselves. Probably that's in how they search for nests of mice or whatever in nature.
Yeah.
Find food also, like besides going into shelter, but. That is an aspect that you take away from them if you don't house them on a substrate that allows them to do that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also in
I will
general,
never understand keeping
yeah,
species like that on wood shavings.
Nope.
yeah, it's like
Impossible.
weird, right? Because you're at least 90% of the behavior of the animal you will never see.
Yeah.
No.
It's like crazy. Also with the Lepidophyma that I had in the big enclosure, it was like everybody said, yeah, they don't climb, they stay on the ground. Yeah, fuck it. Mine was like 3 meters up
Yeah.
there all the time.
Yeah.
That's
It
one
was
other
like,
thing. Is that no,
yeah,
it's a ground living species, so they don't climb, so
yeah,
they don't need it taller
Classic.
than like 30 centimeters. I'm like, what the
yeah.
fuck are you talking about?
And it's not even like when you think about, yeah, I have a boreal enclosure, 90 centimeters high, bro. That's ground level in
Yeah.
nature. Like, that's we will never reach a boreal like height.
No.
It's like just an image that you create, but it's still your branch is still only 30 centimeters away from the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that surprised me lately was the tortoise people,
Okay.
Yeah.
because they only keep the, little things on the floor. And I've seen so many pictures and stories of tortoises climbing rocks,
Really?
big, like they climb the walls and kind of slide down on their bellies. And I was fascinated about tortoises.
Yeah, yeah.
That was insane.
Yeah, I usually it's not like the favorite reptile of mine, but every time I watch Camp Cannon, I'm like, oh man, it looks so nice, like in this
Oh, can we get him on the podcast?
That would be
nice
great.
man.
We can talk about Slinky.
I
Yeah.
love Slinky.
I want to hear everything
Is
about it.
that I saw one video last week. Is that that monitor that pulled apart a snake in
Yes,
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
river.
yeah.
Like he tried to get it off, and it's like, nope.
well, no chance. Yeah.
It's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, felt bad for the snake, but yeah.
he had a bad day.
He that had his last day.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like the second time it happened?
Oh shit.
That
Yeah,
that
I think he
he grabbed the
broke.
snake.
Yeah, I think he broke into a python enclosure and ate one or something like this. Or
Yeah,
was it a
something like
different?
no, I think something like that. Oh, man,
Yeah,
Poor
that's crazy.
pythons.
Yeah.
yeah,
So build a background and make a nice enclosure for your animals.
yeah.
Maybe to wrap it up, maybe we can give the listeners like a quick overview. What's like some important steps, like summarize it in just a
Practice.
few facts. What's good and what's not. Or maybe we can also make like how to build like a simple, good-looking background in an Exoterra, for example.
Pull out the back wall that they supplied. That one.
Yeah.
No, so if I had to wrap it up in like in a few sentences, it's almost impossible because there are so many aspects about doing this. It's like an entirely different hobby within a hobby.
Hmm. Oh,
But
well said.
hmm?
Well said.
Yeah, that was it. No,
Yeah.
like
Thanks, guys.
planning ahead is the most important thing. So you have to like ask yourself, what does the animal need, and what does a background need to look nice or to serve its purpose. Um, and yeah, like perseverance is the most important ingredient of building any back wall, I suppose. Um, because of all these different aspects, and also it takes a lot of time to get to know the materials that are best to work with, and it takes some skill, of course. So yeah, just try different things and try them out on small pieces that you don't want to use in the back wall that is in your living room. So get the skills, get the knowledge first, plan ahead, and once you feel that you've at least not really mastered, but by the lack of a better word, mastered the techniques that are necessary to some extent at least, only then start working on the back wall that needs to be like next to your TV.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Jacob? Any?
Practice. I've never looked at rocks so much from like when you have an enclosure build going on. I go out and I stop at every single little
Yeah.
rock thing all over. It takes I mean, I take detours to go home. Like if I take this stop from the subway, I can go through this park and I mean, oh,
Yeah.
weird.
But that's
Well,
also
but that
fun.
is like here, that's not possible because we don't really have rocks around.
Oh shit. Yeah, well, I'm lucky, I guess.
We have to visit you for the next background build.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no worries at all.
Yeah, nice.
And then I have so many pictures on my phone, little rocky outcrops, kind of how the moss grows from different and leaves. How do they? Because when you think about it, think about nature. It's so easy, make it natural. We usually overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good last words. All right. Yeah. No, do you have any questions left?
No, I'm satisfied.
Now we know
All right.
No,
everything.
I think it's like you could talk about it forever because we are still learning, and probably in 2 years we have completely different opinions, or not completely, but like still have new methods and better methods, and yeah, it's just like keep trying out. And what I learned is like plan things, but also like don't try to stick to it too hard. Like see how
It,
it goes and just
yeah.
go like at some point you just feel how it's like right to shape something. It's like a weird to describe, but somehow you can don't try to copy as crazy. I think when you try to really create a stone from outside, it will never look good. If you want to copy like every single thing out to make it look.
No. Like general, like that is why I love using cement so much lately, because that allows for just cutting out a rough shape, then just applying the outer layer, and just by pushing into it while it's drying with brushes or pointy things like a tip of a knife even,
Mm.
it will just you will have pieces breaking off and it will look natural.
By
It's
accident.
like
Yeah.
magic.
Planned accidents.
I don't know if it's very visible. I picked up a piece out of a terrarium.
That's a real rock.
That's so cool.
You're just
Jealous.
messing with us.
Yeah, that's fun. It's just
By the way,
Yeah, look at this I made.
it looks shiny, but it isn't.
Yeah.
So does it focus properly? I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if you want to put
Oh
this
my God.
in a podcast, but
yeah, why
Yeah,
not?
we would.
Of course.
For those who are watching the videos, great.
Yeah,
Crazy.
and insane.
and it's really
Rock
nice.
hard.
Yeah, it was fucking sand on my keyboard now, but
Yeah, fuck.
Oh shit.
Fucking him up. All right.
yeah.
So thank you so much for jumping in and letting us know on your secrets. And also, listeners, if you want to buy like a very nice background, hit up Ferdy.
Yeah.
He has some for sale. Amazing.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for
buy,
being here.
buy them because they're in the way. I'll
First
lower the
comments.
price a little bit if you want them both.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Advertise a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who want to check it, who want to text Ferdy to buy it, or who also want to check out Jacob's and Ferdy's enclosures and the back walls, we will of course link your Instagram in the description, both on Spotify and YouTube. And yeah, go check the videos out, go check the pictures for some great stuff. All right. Then, dear listeners, thanks for checking in. Write a comment and goodbye. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.